They're going to make tax abatements.
Got
And
it.
I'm like, so they go to these fast track.
Why don't we get started? I want to thank all of you for coming
Oh, hello.
for round 3 of the People Against the Obsidian. And I really think it's appropriate for me to give you a little bit of background as to how we got there. This all started in late 2022 when the developer filed to build a skyscraper right in the space where this strip of retail stores are that are right behind you. This project was originally planned as a huge skyscraper. Didn't comply with a lot of the city regulations and zoning codes. And after about a year, the city staff finally rejected that proposal. Don't ask me why it took a year, but there were a lot of discussions, letters, meetings, follow-ups on that. And fortunately, the city staff came to the right answer and conclusion in October 2023. A few months later, in February of 2024, the developer resubmitted a second proposal. And this proposal was less bad than the first one. It still wasn't good, but basically it still didn't comply. It still had issues with all of the non-compliance areas and violations of the first proposal, but the magnitude of the problem was somewhat less. And he kind of based his whole argument on this second round is that, hey, this is better than the first one. Not the fact that it's right to do or it's in compliance with city codes and zoning codes and building codes. The way I like to, the analogy for this is, you have a guy driving down Interstate 75, the speed limit's 50, he's going 100 miles an hour, he gets pulled over by the cops, he gets ticketed for speeding. So a year later, he's going down I-75, he's going 90. He gets pulled over by the cops, and his argument is, hey, I'm going like slower than I did last year. This is 10% better than last year. Cop says, sorry, the speed limit's 50. You're like still way above the speed limit. So, unfortunately, the developer, by taking this approach, how it was better than their first submission, convinced the city staff that this was okay, even though there were a number of areas where they weren't complying with the code, city code and zoning code. So the next step was we then filed an appeal against the staff's approval of this project. And fortunately for us, the city commission last May voted 4-1 to deny this project. And they denied it for a whole bunch of good reasons. There are 3 adjustments that the developer was requesting from the city, specifically full retail frontage, habitable space, and facades that they weren't able to comply with. And then the city really used 6 out of 8 criteria in zoning code 4-503 that the developer was not complying with. And the biggest ones were it didn't comply with the Sarasota city plan, it didn't meet the land regulations requirement, and it didn't meet a key one on compatibility. And this one I want to read to you because I think it's really critical. And if you look at what's stated in zoning code 4506, it says the city commission shall exercise their discretion when evaluating a site plan submission. And number 4, which is the point about compatibility, it includes location, building size, mass, bulk, height, and lot size and configuration. So while there's been a lot of talk about height, it's not only about height, it's about all these other factors as well. And there were, in addition to that, there were 3 other criteria that were not met. So out of the 8 points, they didn't meet 6 of the criteria. So fortunately for us, the commissioners made the right decision and voted, like I said, 4-1 to deny the project. So then, the developer pursued what's called a fluidra mechanism. The fluidra stands for Florida Land Use and Environmental Dispute Resolution Act. That was filed as an option for developers to try to reach a compromise with the city government when they can't get what they want. It's a highly flawed process. Let me briefly describe to you what fluidra is. Basically, you have the developer and the city staff meeting, and they get a mediator. The mediator was an attorney from Tampa who knew nothing about this project. for them to come up with a compromise on how they might be able to get this project approved. So you've got two groups that had already thought the project was just fine. The city staff had already approved it, version number 2. The developer, of course, thought it was fine. And so they proceeded to come up with a settlement. And the only meaningful change in the settlement was this area of the sidewalk here with all the trees where my wife's standing, among others. They're going to take that out and put in a loading zone. So they're basically going to take half of the sidewalk on this half of the front end. And because one of the areas that the city cited as an issue was they didn't have a loading zone. You can see Palm Avenue is only a 2-lane road. I hang out at Buddy Brew Coffee a lot. When I'm sitting there, the Amazon truck comes for 5 minutes and causes a traffic issue. So they feel like they addressed one of the areas in which the city denied the project the last time because of lack of a loading zone. But they really did that at the expense of knocking down a bunch of trees and making the sidewalk smaller. So they're really detracting from the pedestrian experience, and they're really giving public or city space to the developer, which he really has no right to do. I mean, he's already asking for all these exceptions to the city code and the building code. So there's no reason for them to do that, besides the fact that it sets a dangerous precedent for the future. So going back to my speeding violation analogy, I mean, he went 100 miles an hour, then he was going 90. I kind of put this at a 95. I think this is even worse because it takes so much away from the pedestrian experience. So now that particular settlement is going to the city commissioners on Monday, May 4th. It's going to be in the afternoon. We're the last agenda item for the commission meeting that day. We expect it to start about 1 o'clock, and in which the commissioners will then decide whether this new settlement should be approved or not. It's the same 5 commissioners that voted to support us the last time, and a 4-to-1 vote. So there's been no change in the makeup of the commission. We need to make sure the commissioners do the right thing. Logic and common sense says that we should win that, but logic and common sense says this project shouldn't have been going on or ever conceived for 3.5 years and are still having to fight it. So it's going to be political. It always is political. We need to do everything we can to convince the commissioners to do the right thing again and deny this project on Monday, May 4th. I'm now going to turn it over to Bill Carnes, who is a top flight construction engineer who has a specialty in this area, to say a few words, and then I'm going to come back and do a wrap-up and take any questions from the media.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Can you all hear me? All right, let me introduce myself. I'm Bill Carnes. I'm happy to be here. Lately, I'm happy to be anywhere. And I want to talk a little bit about this proposed construction. I'm a registered professional engineer here in Florida. I've been practicing geotechnical engineering and foundation engineering for about 50 years now. I'm semi-retired, but I'm still active in my company. I've got concerns about the proposal to build this tallest building in Sarasota on this tiny quarter-acre lot, a landlocked lot. This site is virtually landlocked by our property and Palm Avenue. And someone got the idea they could maximize profits with this lot by jacking it up so high that they could see over our building and see Sarasota Bay. And they bent a lot of rules to be able to do that. They're only allowed to do 18 stories and 14 units. That's all it's going to be, is 14 units. So they want to maximize it. And they also asked me for a lot of variations to the code to be able to do this monstrosity, this horrible structure. And so a little bit about the construction plan and what I've seen. The parking levels and the amenity level will be built property line to property line. That means there's going to be no margin of error. That's going to go up to a height of about 60 feet with parking and an amenity level. This means that every piece of spalled concrete, which happens, it's being repaired in the Jewel right now, which is only, what, 8 years old. Every misplaced martini glass is going to end up on adjacent property with no protection. And again, this is basically for 14 units. This building, due to its extreme height, will face the highest wind loads ever designed for in our area. This 18 or 19 level building, with a height of 330 feet now, will be the equivalent of a 30-story building. Adding the current earthquake loads and wind loads, it will require a foundation, will require immense overturning forces and shear forces, the likes of which no one's ever seen in Sarasota before. I don't think they're ready for it. The forces may require the design of large diameter concrete filled caissons, hundreds of feet deep, at least 100 feet deep, filled with concrete and filled with water. It could undermine our foundation very easily if it's not done carefully. It's not just a technical challenge, but a potential safety hazard. This building would have an extraordinary construction process. The developer has submitted a plan to shut the sidewalk down for the period of construction, which could be 2 to 3 years. This construction would require 1,000 truckloads of concrete. The concrete would be delivered having trucks diverted to a lane that would hop the existing curb, would come through right where I'm standing. And that would be the first time I was hit by a truck. And they're going to shut down this really nice ADA pedestrian crossing behind you, which was constructed just a year ago. And I think Ron mentioned they're going to put in eventually a cutoff zone here for deliveries, make problems with Palm Avenue even worse. In addition to the 1,000 trucks of concrete that's going to be coming in over the 2-year period, trucks will deliver formwork, reinforcing steel, and about 7 acres of drywall. It's all going to come right through here during daylight hours while we're here. The proximity to Bay Plaza adds another layer of risk. Bay Plaza was constructed in 1982 on a small concrete pile of roofs. An electric and mechanical section immediately adjacent to the building is on simple shallow spread footings. That's what you see on the first level when you go out the side entrance here. They're going to be right up against that, no argument of safety. They could easily undermine that if they're not careful. And again, this is for 14 units, all this construction, most of which are always going to be dark and empty. So I don't think Sarasota needs this. This building is absurd in size and a construction scope for the number of citizens it will benefit. This building will be the first step in turning a master plan, walkable downtown into an urban hellscape. The commission understood this in their 4-to-1 vote against the project last year. They should not accommodate the minor reason compromises made in the planning board, and they should deny this thing again. Thank you very much.
I want to thank Bill. He probably doesn't want me to say this, but I'm going to. Bill was in a really serious bike accident less than 2 weeks ago on the Ringling Bridge, where he got in a hit-and-run accident. He got sideswiped by a truck. And he only had 3 broken ribs, a broken collarbone, a punctured lung, and a concussion. Fortunately, he was wearing a helmet. So we're really fortunate that Bill is with us today. And especially that he was able to speak today. Thanks a lot, Bill. And on Monday, he'll be sharing those construction risks with the City Commission in a room where we have better sound systems and not as much traffic noise, so they'll be able to hear every word that he says. I had one more thing, and then I kind of wanted to, as we wrap it up. Some people have said that we're a bunch of old, whiny people who can't stand change. And I wanted to kind of give some perspective on that. Okay, we're not that young, so I'll give you credit for that. But I think we can draw a great comparison or contrast between what I consider a proper development versus one that's ridiculous, like the Obsidian, in a number of areas. There's a new project called the Miramar that's scheduled to go up only a couple blocks from here down on South Palm. I want to point out about a half a dozen differences between the Miramar and the Obsidian to show you that there are such things as good development. It's not that we're against change that's bad, but we embrace positive change. As an example, the Miramar is going to be the same 18 stories as the Obsidian. It's going to be 50 feet shorter. It's going to be 280 feet instead of 330. So the Obsidian's about 20% taller than the Miramar. Number two, unfortunately, the city doesn't require any public workshops for downtown developments. The developer of the Miramar had 2 public workshops where the public was allowed to attend, provide input, raise questions and concerns. Not that they listened and responded to every question, but the Obsidian developer had 0 public workshops. Another contrast is as Bill kind of pointed out, one of the real challenges with the Obsidian is not only the sheer size and scope, but it's on a very small lot, which is 1/4 of an acre. The Miramar is going to be on 1.5 acres, so it's 6 times the size, which means that from a health, safety, and well-being, especially during construction, accessibility to the lot is dramatically different. The only access to this property is this small stretch of North Palm Avenue. If you look at the Miramar, they have 3 streets for access that they can, will make it much safer, especially during the construction period. Another difference, I just got to check this on my phone so I don't leave anything out. Two other huge differences. One is that the buildings that the Miramar have planned have much greater setback from any adjoining buildings. They're not going to be anywhere near the proximity, which is basically within feet, if not inches, that the Obsidian would be to Bay Plaza. And last but not necessarily least, the Miramar developer is investing over $25 million to restore as much of that property as possible. That was the site of the first Grand Hotel in Sarasota that was built more than 100 years ago. And he's investing more than $25 million to restore as much of that as possible. So it's providing some public good. There's 0 public good that's going to come out of the Obsidian. And I think when you're a developer and asking the city for a bunch of exceptions, you got to give the public something back in return. And the Obsidian is offering 0. So that's really kind of it for today. Before we open it up to Q&A from the media, really have 2 favors to ask of you on what you can do. We've got these flyers here we can hand out. One is for you to email the commissioners today and urge them to deny this project on Monday. Since the hearing is on Monday, we don't have a lot of time, which is why I want you to send the emails today and tell them to vote no on this project and why you want them to vote no, and to, do the right thing like they did a year ago. And share this with your friends, family, neighbors, anybody that cares about Sarasota, because the precedent that this building would set, if they can do this in our backyard, they can do it in your backyard, let me tell you. The second thing is, the hearing itself is on Monday, May 4th at the Sarasota City Hall. We're the last item on the agenda, so we kind of figure we'll probably start around 1 o'clock. We want to pack that room with people with red shirts as much as possible. Now, the last hearing in May, where the commissioners voted in our favor, was about a 5-hour hearing. We're hoping this one won't be as long, but even if you can only come for an hour or 2 at the beginning or the middle of the end, and to wear your red shirts, we can show the commissioners that the public is strongly opposed to this project, and that'll go a long way to encourage them to do the right thing. We want to give the commissioners reasons and courage to do the right thing, because there's the threat of they're being sued by the developer, and we don't want that to kind of influence them not to support us on this. So that's kind of what we wanted to share with you today. Again, I thank you all for coming, and if the media has any questions, we'll open it up to that.
Does the settlement change anything in terms of what was previously?
Hey, you want to know just what does the settlement change from what the commissioners had voted on? I mean, the primary change is this carving out, reducing the sidewalk space, knocking down the trees, and making that a loading zone. And there's a few other, I would say, minor changes. But the footprint of the building are the same, the size and the scope, all of the issues associated with incompatibility with the surrounding neighborhood still totally holds. So, yes, they addressed one of the 6 areas, but at the expense of really making, the rest of the project a lot less favorable for pedestrians and walkability of the sidewalks. Does that answer your question? Yeah, question is this the final chapter in this fight? Based on this, then the next place would be to go to court. I mean, this Fluidra approach, which one thing maybe I forgot to say in the Fluidra thing is, not only did we have 2 sides that already agreed this project was just fine, but the Tampa attorney who served as the magistrate, he never got to hear any of the arguments why this building should not be built. I mean, he met with 2 sides who already thought it was just fine. So, he gave his opinion that he thought this should be approved, well, of course, because he never talked to anybody else. So it's just a further evidence of how flawed the process is. But we have some people in City Hall that are worried, well, this magistrate's an attorney, and he's recommending the city accept this settlement, and yada, yada, yada. But he never heard the other side of the argument. Yeah, Romo? Ramon wants to know if I'm willing to predict the outcome of the vote. We expect to win 5-0. We're giving the commissioner, Liz Alpert, who voted against us the last time, the chance to support us. I think Liz knows that she made a mistake last time, so this is a chance for her redemption and part of her legacy. As far as I know, she's not planning to run for re-election. She only lives a few blocks away. So, our stretch goal is a 5-0 win, but we'll take a 3-2 win.
A win's a win.
Any other questions from the media? Okay. Elka.
Ron, you mentioned at at City Hall, one of the mediators was an attorney from Tampa, and you mentioned that he didn't know much about this area. And when at the mediation meeting, he actually said that Bay Plaza was the only area that was against the Obsidian building. Apparently, he did not know that the other buildings around us are against it. The towers, the Jewel, 1350, many of the buildings around us. And we have some people here today from Lido Keys. So there are many areas that are...
I have friends here from England. They came across the pond. Seriously, 2 friends right there. I'll repeat Elka's question for those of you that heard it. We weren't able to participate in the hearing. We were able to attend the decision of the hearing where the magistrate announced this settlement back on January 23rd. And 2 things. One is, the 2 parties selected the magistrate. So again, you had 2 parties who already agreed that this building was fine. You kind of wonder why they picked this particular attorney from Tampa to help act as the moderator for their settlement. But at the settlement announcement on January 23rd, the magistrate said that, it was basically an issue. Actually, he didn't say it. The developer's attorney said it was just Bay Plaza was against this project. And nothing could be further from the truth. I mean, we have friends here that are realtors, that are tennis players that live on Longbow, and most of them are friends of mine. They also, we had 4,000 people sign petitions against this project. And because the community realizes that this is totally inappropriate and we got to draw the line somewhere. So we've had great community support. We really appreciate that, and we're going to need it to drive this home on Monday. Donna? Monday will be the hearing and the vote. At the end of the meeting, you get to hear they vote. And in fact, the reasons that I gave for the commission voting against the building last time was documented. The meeting was May 23rd. They issued this formal decision on July 7th, because the commission doesn't meet in June. But in that written settlement, they identified the specific reasons for denying the project. And that's where there were the 3 adjustments that the developer was requesting, as well as, importantly, the 6 out of 8 criteria in the zoning code. So that our major argument Monday is going to be, 5 of the 6 criteria haven't been changed by the settlement, and none of the 3 exception adjustments they were looking for have been addressed either. So, you know, really, on a common logical sense basis, it should be a no-brainer. Yes?
Should we call and email or just email?
I personally think email's better. Right. The question was whether to call and email. I think email's better. Yes?
Do you think it's better to send one email to all the commissioners or a particular one targeted?
The question is send one email to all the commissioners. I mean, I just think one to all of them is fine. And on this pamphlet we have, if you send it to this commissioners at sarasotafl.gov, it automatically goes to all 5 of them. So it's just simpler. You can send one email. Yes?
Are the hotel and the restaurants across the street aware of all this?
Question is, are the hotel and restaurant across the street aware of this? Yes. You want me to expand on that? Okay. I talked to the general manager at Ovation. He was behind us, and then his management at Marriott found out about it and told him they didn't want him to get involved. The manager of Kojo's said he doesn't like it, but he's in the hospitality business and he didn't want to get involved. So, what can I tell you? Yeah, Ramon's question, will I be able to testify on Monday? Yeah, the bulk of the testimony from our side will be by our attorney, Morgan Bentley. At the start of the meeting, they allot